Hello everyone, after braving the dangers of Kanto with one of the weakest Pokémon from the first generation, Rattata, the desire to embark on another adventure has never been stronger as summer comes to an end. To do this, I've decided to explore a region that's still unknown to you on this channel. What better way to kick off this epic journey than with a solo run using an iconic first-generation Pokémon? Not only is it somewhat ridiculous, but it's also one of Misty's favorite Pokémon, Ash's first Poké-girl in the anime. So Psyduck will be our only Pokémon throughout this adventure, and we'll see if it can complete the game, despite the challenge of facing trainers who sometimes have up to 6 Pokémon. This brings us to the first rule of the challenge. Psyduck will be the only Pokémon we can use in battles throughout the adventure, but HM slaves are allowed. Note that the only modifications I made to the game were changing Professor Elm's starter Pokémon to Psyduck, and as you may have noticed, the player's sprite is that of Misty, the first generation gym leader. It's pretty amusing to imagine what she would have done in the gold version if she had started in New Barktown with just a Psyduck. The second rule, to keep the challenge competitive, is that using items during battles is forbidden. However, held items are allowed. Now that we know the rules, we can receive our dear Psyduck from Professor Elm. The beginning of the adventure goes smoothly, and we discover our Pokémon in the tall grass, leading to Mr. Pokémon's house. The first test is against our rival, Silver, to whom I gave the most challenging Pokémon for our run, Chikorita. Even though it might be the worst of Johto's 3 starters competitively, its grass type could pose a problem for our water type Pokémon. Luckily, in the first battle, it doesn't yet have a stab move, and we can defeat it without too much trouble, especially since we've already gained an extra level by progressing through the game. Once our rival is defeated, we can return to New Barktown to file a report about the theft to the police, and then head north to Cherry Grove City. Our first battle there is against Youngster Joey, renamed Youngster Mikey in the DS remakes, a nice nod to our first challenge in Pokemon Fire Red. Naturally, we defeat his Rattata without any issue. We arrive in Violet City, and from this point, 2 parts of the story open up to us. We can either go directly to the gym or head to the Sprout Tower to obtain the TM Flash. Since I was convinced that Flash was needed to get through the cave towards Azalea Town, I decided that the tower was a good place to train for the gym, even though the Bellsprout used by the monks, probably Buddhists, are grass types. Special mention goes to the head monk, who is quite difficult to beat. A good tactic is to hope that the Bellsprout attack us so that we can disable their Vine Whip and render them harmless. This way, we have enough HP left when facing the Hoot Hoot. The battle against this bird is a nice warm-up for the fight against Faulkner, who has flying-type Pokemon. We managed to beat him in one hit, thanks to our training, and the victory grants us not only the first badge, but also the TM Mudslap. Contrary to what one might think, Psyduck's move pool is quite diverse, and it can learn this ground-type move. It will be handy against electric types, a deadly enemy for our Pokemon. Even though it's weak in power, it's also useful against poison or fire types, until we get a water-type attack. Since it lowers the opponent's accuracy, it's basically a very useful sand attack, at least until we obtain another very useful TM for solo challenges, Dig. It not only saves on escape ropes, but is also quite versatile. Thus, we can continue our adventure better equipped, and we reach Azalea Town in no time. At level 16, Psyduck learns Confusion, which curiously isn't a stab move for its evolutionary line, even though the Pokemon's name clearly has Psy in it. With this attack, battles against Coughing, Zubat, and other poison types used by Team Rocket grunts become a breeze, and we quickly liberate the Slowpoke well under the watchful eye of Kurt, who's stuck with a bad back. Defending Azalea Town grants us access to Bugsy's gym, which specializes in bug-type Pokemon. The battle against the gym leader is quite challenging, because while Metapod and Kakuna aren't particularly tough to fight, the last Pokemon Scyther has high attack power, and more importantly, Fury Cutter, which increases in power with each successive hit, leading to our Psyduck's KO. No worries, at this point in the game, we can face our rival to gain more experience. We head towards the forest, where he confronts us, starting with a Ghastly. Since Ghastly doesn't yet have the Levitate ability, our ground-type attacks can hit it. This tactic is preferred over Confusion, because it lowers accuracy with each hit, and in the event of a Spite attack, we don't lose PP on an important move. The real threat is Bayleaf with its Razor Leaf attack. Thanks to our experience against the Bellsprout in Violet City, we disable its attack after it hits us to avoid taking heavy damage. This is necessary because none of our attacks significantly affect the grass-type Pokemon, so we hope that within 5 turns, it doesn't use another damaging move. Once KO'd, Zubat is sent out, and our Confusion attack can 2-HA KO it. This victory is reassuring before facing Bugsy again, with the extra experience being welcome. This extra experience is crucial, as well as exploiting Disable when Scyther lands its first Fury Cutter, allowing us to KO it without fearing its subsequent attacks. The second badge is in hand, and we can head up to Goldenrod City, but first, we need to solve the far-fetched puzzle. Once we arrive in Johto's bustling metropolis, it's time to train our Psyduck a bit. First, we can go to the department store to buy a very useful TM for the early part of the adventure. Elemental Punches are accessible after only 2 badges in the second generation, so we buy the TM for Ice Punch, with 65 power and special, for our Pokemon. It's a great deal, and if we get the coin case from the basement, we won't have enough money to buy Blizzard, another move that Psyduck can learn in the second generation. Since Blizzard is inaccurate, Ice Punch seems like the most optimal move for the adventure. Heading over to the national park where the bug catching contest takes place, we also make sure to grab the TM for Dig, which, although it was nerfed in Gen 2, is still a good alternative to Mudslap. With this new moveset, we're ready to face Whitney. The battle starts off well for us, as Psyduck's first Ice Punch freezes Whitney's Clefairy. We can easily take it down without worrying about losing any more HP. Next comes Whitney's most formidable Pokemon, the infamous Miltank. The plan is to use Dig, so its rollout doesn't hit us with multiplied damage, but when we use our first Ice Punch, Miltank gets frozen too. It's completely unexpected and extremely lucky, but that's how it goes in Pokemon. And luck is on our side this time, since we finish off Miltank without taking any damage. Whitney is so upset by this loss that she initially refuses to give us the badge, but after talking to her again, she accepts her defeat, though it wasn't exactly fair. With the third badge in hand, we pick up the Squirt model to deal with the Sudowoodo blocking the path, and the road to Akrutik City is now open. The first step in any challenge, when new areas become accessible, is to loot them for resources to build the best possible team. Since it's a necessary part of the adventure anyway, we head to the Kimono Girls to battle them and obtain a very useful HM for our Pokemon Surf. Not only does it open up routes to Xianwood and Mahogany, but it's also the first stab move we can teach our Psyduck, and it's no small thing. With a base power of 90, multiplied by 1.5 thanks to our Pokemon's water type, it's like firing a cannon. However, we don't really need it against Morty, the Ghost-type gym leader. With just Dig, we can OHKO most of Morty's Pokemon. This victory encourages us to continue westward to collect 2 more badges before facing Team Rocket again. The first stop is the Olivine Lighthouse, where we encounter some friendly trainers to battle and train our Pokemon for upcoming challenges. We also meet Jasmine, who is trying to heal a sick Ampharos. She sends us to Xianwood to get medicine, and we set sail, not forgetting about Chuck's gym, which we visit directly. Against him, the move Confusion is our best ally. It's a Twitch KO against his Primeape, and for his Poliwrath, we have to hit hard, while hoping 3 factors are in our favor. Primeape shouldn't lower our defense too much with Leer, Poliwrath's Hypnosis should miss, and we definitely don't want to hit ourselves in Confusion from Poliwrath's Dynamic Punch. Thanks to this stroke of luck, we defeat the Martial Arts Master. We then rush back to Olivine with a mandatory return to the lighthouse to give Jasmine the medicine, making her available in her gym, which features a then new type, Steel. The Magnemite family has inherited this new type, giving it a quadruple weakness to ground, making Dig a breeze against Jasmine's first 2 Pokemon. Her final Pokemon, Steelix, can't withstand a stab surf from our Psyduck. With 6 badges quickly collected, it's clear that Psyduck is actually a pretty good Pokemon, at least compared to Rattata. The Johto gym leaders, despite their reputation for not being great, are handled fairly easily, and the next gym leader won't be accessible until after a series of mandatory battles against Team Rocket, which will only strengthen our Pokemon. We deal with the Red Gyarados, Lance opens up access to the basement of the pharmacy, and we dismantle Team Rocket's operation in Mahogany Town. Since there aren't any notable battles during this part of the game, even against the Team Rocket admin, I'd like to take this opportunity to ask you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Interacting with a video is important for small creators, and if you enjoy the content you see on the channel, every share, like, comment, and subscription matters a lot. I also love responding to all comments, as I find it's an interesting space for discussing strategies for challenges, or simply talking about the challenges you would like to see on the channel. After this little break, we return to our challenge, and it's time to face Price, the Ice-type gym leader. He's expected to be tougher than his predecessors due to his type, which theoretically resists our water stab. Against his first Pokemon Seal, we have to rely on the old move Confusion since it double resists water and ice moves, though fortunately, it's also harmless. Dugong, the next Pokemon, is even more resistant, and we also have to use our little Psychic type move to take it down. Against Piloswine, however, it's a different story since Surf hits it neutrally. This makes it much easier to KO, and we win our 7th badge. At nearly level 50, taking down Team Rocket in the radio tower is really a walk in the park, and after defeating all the grunts in our way, including Silver, who is the most dangerous part of this segment, we head to the ice path en route to Blackthorn City. Psyduck is an ideal companion, and we quickly reach the gym of Claire, the Dragon-type master and cousin of Lance. This battle is finally a challenge, especially against Claire's signature Pokemon. The first Dragonair is taken down with a single Ice Punch. The same goes for the second and third Dragonair, which have an obvious weakness to this move. Then comes the final showdown with Kingdra. Kingdra resists our Water-type stab moves, and our Ice Punch is neutral, so we use this opportunity to test its damage. It's not very strong, and Kingdra retaliates with a devastating Hyper Beam. With only 54 HP left, all we can do is hope we don't get hit again, and thankfully Kingdra's recharge turn gives us a chance to deal more damage. This forces Claire to heal it, allowing us to attack once, and then a second time, which freezes Kingdra. While this might seem lucky at first, it's not really the case, since by healing Kingdra, Claire gave us the chance to use Ice Punch at least 4 times, quadrupling the chance of triggering this destructive secondary effect. It was our last PP for Ice Punch, so we decide to finish off the last Dragon-type Pokemon with Dig. The battle is won, but not the badge. The Johto gym leaders are certainly sore losers, especially when they retreat to a lighthouse to avoid battling. After a small mission in the cave behind the gym, we can finally boast of having earned all 8 Johto gym badges. While it's clearly a less remarkable achievement than that of a Rattata, it's still a nice piece of work accomplished with just a Psyduck. Now onto the first big challenge of this run, the Pokemon League. Victory Road would be uneventful if Silver didn't surprise us at the end with a fairly competitive team, on paper at least, since our rival Sneasel can't withstand our strong stab moves. In fact, given the number of trainers we had to battle to reach the league, our Psyduck is at level 56, while Silver's Pokemon are around level 35. Magneton, the second Pokemon, is like its pre-evolution Magnemite and takes quadruple damage from ground-type moves, so Psyduck's Dig one-shots it. The first credible opposition is Meganium, which endures our Ice Punch and takes the opportunity to poison us. The second hit takes it down, but we'll need to defeat the remaining 3 Pokemon quickly to ensure victory. Next is Golbat, which is also weak to Ice Punch. We one-shot it before moving on to Haunter, which doesn't deal any damage to us, but our HP gradually drops due to the poison as we use Dig. The same tactic is used for Kadabra, which, if given the chance to attack, chooses Future Sight, making it completely useless, and a Surf finishes it off. We arrive at the league and prepare accordingly by buying items to heal between battles. The first league trainer is Will, a Psychic-type enthusiast. His first Pokemon is Xatu, which is also a Flying type, evident just by looking at it, so Ice Punch seems appropriate to take it out as quickly as possible. Once that's done, Executor is sent out. Like its predecessor, it has a weakness to Ice, so it's a good opportunity to hit it with Ice Punch and hope for a Ochko. Unfortunately, that's not the case, and it uses Future Sight, which will worry us later. We finish it off with another Ice Punch, and Jinx is sent out. It tanks our Surf and responds with Double Slap, but misses its attack. We continue to hit it with Surf. It's not a particularly worrying battle so far. Will recalls his defeated Jinx, and Slowbro is sent out to the rescue. If you follow some of my videos comparing the best trainers in each game, you'll know that the Slowbro in the league loves to boost itself, which is why it's dangerous, especially since our first dig isn't very effective, so we have to pound it with Surf to deal more damage. Fortunately, we land a critical hit that brings it into the deep orange zone, preventing it from boosting too much with Amnesia. The final Pokemon is another Xatu, and once again, our Ice Punch does the job. Now onto the second member of the league, a former gym leader from Pokemon Red and Blue, known for his toxicity, both literally and figuratively, Koga. He should pose more of a problem for our Pokemon, thanks to his evasion moves. The first Pokemon is Ariados, and it doesn't hesitate to land a blow to its abdomen. Ariados withstands the attack, but its own super effective move does very little damage to us, allowing us to finish it off while losing minimal HP. Venomoth is called out next, but it's also a bug type, and our Ice Punch allows us to 2H KO it, though not without taking another hit. 2 Pokemon down before facing Forretress. Ice Punch is ineffective, but fortunately, Surf allows us to 2H KO this sturdy Steel type. With almost 20 levels above the competition, the league is easily accessible for our Water type Pokemon for now. Muck is sent out, and it manages to tank our first Surf, forcing us to send a second one as it raises its defense. Our attack is special, so its action was in vain. When Crobat arrives, our battle gets a bit more complicated because it's faster and evades with Double Team, which you all know well if you've followed the adventures of youngster Joey. As a result, our first Ice Punch misses, and we have to rely on an Ice Punch that freezes it to neutralize it. Healing doesn't change anything. It's a 2H KO. If we can manage to land a hit. The next member of the Pokemon League is the good old Bruno, and his team isn't much different from the first generation, with the only change being one of his Onix, replaced by the new Hitmontop, the third evolution in the Tyrogue line. Hitmontop is sent out as the lead, and it's fairly easy to defeat. We just need to use the move Confusion for a 2H KO, and on our first attack, the opposing Pokemon becomes confused, preventing it from attacking. We finish it off with our Mind Attack, and Hitmonchan is called out next. We proceed to use Surf as our first move, but it doesn't kill it directly, allowing it to hit us with a super effective Thunder Punch. We survive the attack, and then hit it again with Confusion to save our Surfs. The last of the trio, Hitmonlee, is sent out, and we start with Confusion to chip away at its health and bring it into Surf range. It's harmless with its double kick, and as expected, we finish it off. Machop is sent out as Bruno's ultimate weapon, but its Cross Chop is very inaccurate, allowing us to KO it in 2 hits, as fighting-type Pokemon generally don't have good special defense. All that's left is Onix, which can't do anything against Surf. We're now 2 battles away from the National Championship, and to get there, we first have to take down Karen, the new member of the Elite Four, who replaces Agatha starting in Gold and Silver. Her Pokemon are mostly Dark-type, as evidenced by her lead, Umbreon, which is quite a pain to deal with. Although it doesn't deal any damage to us in the 3 turns we face it, our Surf isn't very powerful against it, and it takes 3 hits to knock it out. In the meantime, it might use Sand Attack to lower our accuracy, which will be a problem throughout the battle, since we're not allowed to switch Pokemon to reset our accuracy stat. So, when Vileplume is sent out, we just hope it doesn't hit us with a Grass-type attack. Fortunately, it chooses to use Stun Spore, which misses, knowing that in the first and second generation, status moves from NPCs have a 25% chance of failing. Since we have an Ice-type move, we can KO it in 2 hits. Gengar is sent out, but it doesn't have any attacks that really threaten us, and since its defense is weaker, we opt for Dig, though in hindsight, I'm not sure that was the best choice. Still, it lowers its HP to the orange, allowing us to finish it off with Surf. The next Pokemon is Murkrow, and we miss our Ice Punch for the first time, giving it a chance to hit us with a feint attack before we finally land our move, and one-shot it. Houndoom is the last Pokemon, and while it's a legitimately scary Pokemon, a simple Surf from Psyduck wins us the battle against the final member of the Elite Four. We finally reached the long-awaited final match, not against a Dragon-type Master, but against the Flying-type Master. Indeed, in the second generation, Lance only has 3 Dragon types, his Dragonites, but all 6 of his Pokemon share a common type. They're all Flying types according to the game, and overall, Psyduck quite likes birds, since Ice Punch can threat them effectively. However, Lance's first Pokemon might be the toughest of them all. Gyarados also has a water type, which makes it resistant to Surf and neutral to Ice Punch. It's a significant first obstacle, so we start with Ice Punch. It doesn't deal much damage. Unfortunately, since Gyarados uses Flail, a move even Magikarp can learn, which deals more damage the less HP the user has, we hit it with Ice Punch again, and luckily it gets frozen, rendering it harmless. Lance doesn't respond to this problem by using a full restore, so we take advantage of this stroke of luck to finish it off and begin a proper sweep. Like his cousin Claire, Lance has 3 of the same Pokemon, in this case Dragonite, and while we had no trouble one-shotting Claire's Dragonair with Ice Punch, as they are doubly weak to the move, Dragonite is quadruply weak, meaning they're completely obliterated by our unassuming Duck, so, in the span of 3 turns, 3 Dragonites fall to Psyduck. I never thought I'd say that sentence, honestly. The next Pokemon is Aerodactyl, a fossil from the first generation, and it doesn't take our Surf very well, nor does the final Pokemon, Charizard, also known as the Flame Pokemon. With just one move, the Fire-type Pokemon is defeated, and it's official, we're crowned the champion of the Pokemon League. This achievement is entirely thanks to Psyduck and its surprisingly not so bad move pool in the second generation. Now it's time to ask a serious question. When does Pokemon Gold really end? The adventure in Johto is relatively easy, and it's also the game with a rather substantial post-game. In my mind, that post-game is an integral part of the main game, all the way up to the final challenge, as we have the opportunity to earn 8 more badges. So, we set off on an adventure in Kanto with our Pokemon, hoping for more significant challenges. To do that, we take the boat at Olivin City's harbor after receiving congratulations from Professor Elm. On the boat, there's a little puzzle to solve involving a lost little girl. Once the case was solved, the ship arrived safely at Vermilion City. It's a pleasure to return to Kanto after 3 years and rediscover the past mysteries. Since Latin Surge's gym is right next to the port, it's a good opportunity to use Surf and go for our 9th badge. The battle against the Electric-type gym leader is obviously not one of the easiest, especially with our type disadvantage. His first Pokemon is the famous Raichu, and with Dig, we know we can one-shot it with a critical hit, though that's not guaranteed every time. Magneton is sent out next, and its quadruple weakness is unforgivable against our Pokemon. For the face-off against Electabuzz, we choose to use our Stab Water-type move, Surf, to bring its HP into the red. Electabuzz uses its turn to set up Light Screen, boosting its special defense. Since its HP is very low, we decide to hit it with another Surf, but Latin Surge cunningly heals his Pokemon before we can KO it. As a result, our Surf doesn't deal as much damage, so we switch to Dig to defeat Electabuzz. The final Pokemon are Electrode. We already faced 3 of them at the Team Rocket hideout in Mahogany Town, and our biggest fear is that they might explode, as we won't win the battle if all our Pokemon faint. They evade, and we take advantage of this to hit them with powerful Surfs right in the face. Victory is ours, though not without difficulty, and we now have 9 badges. Upon arriving in Saffron City, we start to understand the regional issues, with the magnet train being out of service. We visit Mr. Psychic's house, which hasn't changed in 3 years. He gives us the TM for Psychic, but unfortunately, we can't teach it to our Pokemon, even though it would have been immensely helpful. To make up for this, we decide to head to Sabrina's Psychic-type gym to earn our 10th badge. With only 3 Pokemon, she doesn't pose any particular challenge. Alakazam hits hard, but is very frail. Next, we head through Celadon City, where we completely forget to challenge the gym, and instead head down Cycling Road to reach Fuchsia City. There we plan to challenge Janine, Koga's daughter. She's not yet at her father's level, who was possibly the toughest Elite Four member we faced. Despite her 5 Pokemon, we have super effective moves against her entire lineup. We then head back to Celadon City for the 12th badge, and even though Erica has Grass-type Pokemon, our Ice Punch one-shots her entire team. It must be said that we're still at a high level, since the Kanto gym leaders don't have Pokemon much stronger than the ones we faced in the Pokemon League. Only 4 badges remain, and they can only be obtained by solving the puzzle in Cerulean City, which leads us to the power plant, and then to the Cape to find Misty, who is on a date. When we finally see her, she insults us and heads back to her gym. But instead of struggling against her Lapras with Perish Song and our overleveled Pokemon, we take advantage of the 2 gyms weak to our Water type, Brock's Rock-type gym and Blaine's Fire-type gym, or at least what's left of it. Unsurprisingly, a few Surfs are enough to easily defeat these trainers, allowing us to head back to Viridian City, but we won't face Blue just yet. It's time for a showdown against Misty. Her first Pokemon is the evolved form of ours, and it seems too underleveled to threaten us. Our Confusion does more damage than her Psychic, and yes, our Evolution can learn Psychic, allowing us to finish it off with a Surf, though we regret that it lowered our special defense for the rest of the battle. The next Pokemon is Quagsire, which falls to a Surf as its ground type cancels out its water resistance. But the real danger from Misty is her next Pokemon with Perish Song, which signals an almost certain loss. With this move, our Pokemon has only 3 turns left to win the battle, since we can't switch out. Given the bulkiness of her remaining Pokemon, this seems like an impossible mission. Luckily, the stars align when we hit Lapras with our first Surf, landing a critical hit that helps us take it down. It's a perfect turn as Lapras uses Blizzard, which surprisingly misses. The second turn isn't as lucky since our Surf doesn't finish it off, allowing it to use Perish Song, our worst fear. We finally defeat it, and Starmie is sent out with only 2 turns left to beat Misty. Fortunately, our first Surf suggests a 2 HKO, and after our second attack, we can breathe a sigh of relief. We just defeated our NPC clone, and having tackled Kanto's gyms out of order seems to have paid off. But one remains, and it's no small task. The former Pokemon League champion, Blue, awaits us in Viridian City, in the former gym of Giovanni, with a diverse team. To prepare for the battle, we will teach a new move to our Pokémon, which we had kept in reserve in case we needed a powerful attack against grass or flying Pokémon, Blizzard. However, we will keep Ice Punch to maintain a precise Ice-type attack, just in case. Thus, when Blue's first Pokémon, the traditional Pidgeot, is sent out, we can use Ice Punch to conserve Blizzard's PP. It's almost a KO, but Pidgeot's attack doesn't really hit us, and we can prepare for the next Pokémon. Blue probably has one of the best AIs in the game, and since he's facing a Water-type Pokémon, he sends out Exeggutor, a Grass-type Pokémon. Knowing that it will likely charge up a Solar Beam, we hit it with 2 Ice Punches. It is knocked out without causing us any damage. For Alakazam, we can finally use our Stab Surf, which doesn't finish it off. It's faster and heals on the second turn, which allows us to take it down before facing a problematic Pokémon. For Gyarados, it's time to send out our Blizzards, which only result in a 3 HKO. However, it attacks us with a powerful Hyper Beam, giving us 2 turns to continue weakening it. Our second Blizzard lands and puts Gyarados' HP into the red. Blue reacts and uses a heal on his Pokémon, and everything is reset, but our Blizzard is actually in range for a 2 HKO, depending on our attack's power. Thus, our second attack not only lands, but also knocks it out, leaving only 2 Pokémon for Blue to bring our 71 HP to 0. The next Pokémon, Arcanine, is a Fire type, but has the priority move Extreme Speed. We only have 28 HP left when our Surf goes for the one-shot. The final Pokémon, Rhydon, has a double weakness, which means we have officially earned our 16th badge, an objective achieved with brilliance by a simple Psyduck, but the battle against Blue was just a prelude to the final showdown of the game against the former champion of the Pokémon League, the character you play in Pokémon Red and Blue. If you aren't doing challenges like me, he is located at Silvermount, a wild territory where Pokémon are high level. To get through the cave, you need Flash, which is obtained early in the game. When we reach the summit, he is there, waiting for us, and we can start the most epic battle of the Pokémon series. His first Pokémon is Pikachu, the real one, the franchise mascot, and it will use Thunder to try to surprise us from the start, but it misses. We take advantage of this to dig underground with Dig. This move is super effective and knocks out the Mouse Pokémon. Against a Water-type Pokémon, Red's AI sends out his Venusaur. It is also faster, and like Exeggutor in the previous battle, prepares a Solar Beam. We send out our Blizzard, but it doesn't one-shot it. However, when it uses its Stab Grass-type move with 120 power, we are knocked out. The battle against Red is lost, and we are clearly not at his level. It's time to re-evaluate and go through a long training session to at least be faster than Red's Pokémon. Thus, the change in our team involves the following. We level Psyduck to the highest possible level, which is 100, and replace its Dig with the TM received from Irisha's gym, Dynamic Punch. Although it has 50% accuracy, it will be useful against Red's Snorlax. The battle starts again against Pikachu, and it doesn't withstand our Surf attack. It is recalled by Red, who sends out Venusaur again, just like in the previous match. We are now faster, and importantly, our Blizzard can knock it out without any issues. 2 out of 6 Pokémon have fallen before Espeon is sent out. At our level, we can also one-shot it, although it's on a critical hit. I'm not sure if it has played against Eevee's evolution. Next is Snorlax, which is the best competitive Pokémon in Overused for this generation, and it's easy to see why. Our Dynamic Punch lands, but doesn't one-shot it. However, it is confused, which is excellent in case it wants to use Rest. With a final Surf, the Pokémon we first encountered east of Cerulean City is knocked out. For the next Pokémon, Blastoise, the same technique is used with equal success. The first Dynamic Punch lands and confuses it. With Surf, we can bring its HP into the red. It uses Surf against us, but we resist this attack better and finally take it down. The final Pokémon is Charizard, which we defeat without hesitation, with Surf to win the battle. The mission is accomplished. We have finally completed Pokémon Gold with only a Psyduck as our ally. It's an achievement and always a pleasure to finish a challenge after hours of gameplay, sometimes struggling, like at the end of this challenge, with Psyduck intensive training to level 100. Yet, it was quite an interesting Pokémon to use, with very powerful early game moves, like Confusion just before entering the Slowpoke well, or Disable to redirect Grass-type moves blocking our path. Once we reached Goldenrod City, very useful moves were available, which we kept for a significant portion of the game. The difficulty curve not helping, Psyduck became very strong, given the number of trainers on the game routes, who provide experience points, and the gym leaders in this game are relatively mediocre. Ultimately, 2-3 Kanto gym leaders posed problems, but the real challenge was defeating Red, and for that, we had to train our Pokémon. I hope you enjoyed this new solo challenge, and encourage you to subscribe if you haven't yet, and if you enjoy the channel's content. For small creators, support is crucial for visibility, and I love responding to comments on the videos I watch or create. That's the power of a social network like YouTube. Let's make the most of it. See you soon for new adventures. Au revoir.